what I find works best is if I really give myself that chunk of uninterrupted time to learn the piece of technology so that I really get it well. And I would say I did that with my Stream Deck at the moment. I think I'm at a good level. I've taken it up a level. I certainly have additional levels to go, but to do that, I'm going to need to invest more learning time in there. And one of them will be the eCam, the multi-action, like all of these nice suggestions that you're giving me.
Welcome to Macpreneur, the show for seasoned solopreneurs looking to streamline their business on a Mac. Unlock the secrets to saving time and money with your host and technology mentor, Damien Schroers.
Today I have the pleasure to have Kim DeYoung on the show. Kim is a seasoned choice coach, facilitator, speaker, and author of The Book of Choice, with over 2 decades of experience coaching creative, visionary entrepreneurs. Kim has helped countless individuals make meaningful choices to bring their ideas to fruition. She's happiest when she's engaging in interesting conversations about meaningful choices. Kim, welcome to the show.
So glad to be here with you.
So I think it's appropriate to ask you what made you choose a Mac and how did it happen?
I remember the day well, actually. It's about 15 years ago now. And I had a PC that I felt like had a virus every month. And every month I was calling my PC tech guy to come and fix my virus and spending money to fix the virus. And I didn't know much about the Macs at the time. But I said, I'm done. I'm done with PC. I'm moving to Mac. And I have never looked back. I have, the whole family has become a Mac family in every way. And I love it. I never will go back to a PC.
And so 15 years ago, it was already after the Intel transition. So which Mac was it when you...
I believe my first one was a 15-inch laptop. That is my recollection, which was heavy. That was It was 2009. And so I will definitely admit to you, I don't know the tech behind each Mac that I had. You are way more savvy about that than I. But 15-inch laptop and, have subsequently moved. I've never gone smaller than the 13. The 13 is really my favorite at this point, and I'm probably on my 5th.
Yeah, because they had the MacBook Air. They had an 11-inch MacBook Air at one point. Then they stopped it. Then they had the 12-inch MacBook, very thin, just one port for charging the computer. And so you needed a dongle all the time. And by the way, my daughter, my 15 years old daughter, she has this MacBook. She has the 2016 edition of that MacBook. It's still working. And so today, what is your current setup? What Mac do you have? Do you have accessories?
So right in the pandemic, I needed a new Mac. So I am on a 13-inch, 1 terabyte. It was, interestingly, I thought when I bought it, and I remembered spending probably an hour on the phone with Mac sales, like really describing how I use my computer, which I believe I'm a heavy user. I have a lot of applications open at once. I've been teased that I have so many files, that I rival the Federal Reserve. So I need a lot of storage, a lot of capacity. I get very frustrated if my Mac is slow. So interestingly, the computer that I currently have was an off the shelf. I was expecting to have to customize something, but I didn't. So I believe the one I have is a 1 terabyte. And I have to say, 4 years later, it's still great. I am sure if you and I were to have a juicy conversation about all the sexy things about the newer Macs, you could sway me to want to buy a new one. I'm sure it would do magic things that mine is not doing. But for the moment, I am quite pleased with what my Mac does. And I use it in conjunction with, I have an iPhone 13, the Pro version. And I've also got an older iPad, which is perfectly functional. I had considered getting the big iPad Pro, and I just decided I didn't need that. And for the past couple of years, I've also had a 21 or 22-inch desktop, which finally I had to get rid of. It was not. It wasn't allowing me to upgrade Appropriately, it was a 2012, so it was time for that one to go. So my additional setup, my only non-Mac piece is I have an Acer 30-inch monitor that when I'm in facilitation mode, I tend to use that. But most of my work is done on my 13-inch laptop.
And so when you use the webcam, when you do remote calls and so on, do you use the built-in webcam or do you have another
when
one?
I'm on my Mac or when I'm using the monitor?
Yeah, so when you are at your desk, you have your 30-inch monitor, do you have an additional webcam?
I have an additional webcam. What I got, and I may change it actually, I got it's called Eye Contact, and it, or if you're familiar with it, so it has an arm that drops down. And one of the things that I really liked about that was it forces me to maintain eye contact. It's very important to me as a coach that, I'm interacting as connectedly as I can. One of the negatives for me of that particular camera with the way that the arm drops is I also have a document camera, an IPVO, that I use in facilitation, and it's not because of the where the camera shows. My IPVO is in a lot of view, more view than I wish it were. So I am likely going to probably get a Logitech or something, a different camera that doesn't take up as much view of my screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we talked about that. I still need to refine my setup for recording this podcast. But at the moment, I'm using my iPhone 14 Pro Max as the camera, and yes, it has some advantages. So there is one thing that when you use the iPhone as a camera, is you can also use it to look down. So to have basically two views, right? The front view, but also looking at the keyboard view. And we talked in the pre-show about the Elgato teleprompter. Right? This is something that's definitely on my Amazon shopping list. Because, that would solve a lot of problems, being able to look straight at the camera.
Yeah.
But also see the screen, see the other participants if it's Zoom, and I
am as a facilitator, I am part of a pretty special community. It's called Exchange. And we as a community of, many hundreds are all experimenting with the upgrading of our technology to support us to be the best facilitators that we can be. So I want to say I'm on the newer side of it. I've bought some of the things, still not using it with incredible ease, which is what I really want, so that my facilitation is what's coming forward, not my awkwardness of the maneuvering of a device. But I really love all the devices when they work together and allow you to do your work more properly.
So maybe we can switch to the apps, the application. So you're a book author. So for instance, for your book, which kind of app do you use? And also you facilitate workshops. So what's your current app setup at the moment?
When I was writing my book, which was a 10-year process, I experimented with a handful of things. I probably bought various Mac Writer, and again, this is not something I'm using now, so I may not have my names all correct. Truly, I moved to Google Docs. I mean, everything for my writing was Google Docs. I kept things organized in a tool that I use called OmniFocus, which is part of the Omni Group platform that is only Mac-based, that I love all of their products. I did use that. I also kept things organized using Trello. So I would use the boards of Trello to keep my content organized, and I could move things around in that way. So that was probably key in the writing. And actually another key component for me, within my book, I teach a process called choice mapping. And to create maps, I use a tool called MindNode. And that's a mind mapping software that I use to create choice maps, and I teach others a similar process. So concurrently using all of that, and I will say one thing that was interesting in the writing of my book and also the publication of it, because I self-published, was there were a lot of intricacies of getting the images of my maps in transparent PNG format so that they looked beautiful in the book. And there was an interesting challenge that I had. Some of the maps were not meant to be visible because for privacy reasons, others were. And yet I wanted them all to have a similar transparent background. So there was some workarounds for me to allow that to happen. With regard to my facilitation, I am using Zoom. I am using Spotify because I bring music in. I am using, not so well yet, an IPEVO as a document scanner, which allows me to be more present with my audience so that I'm not constantly sharing a screen of a presentation. And I've you and I were speaking about the newly gotten a Stream Deck, which is supporting me to again have a lot more setup on my computer so that I can be more present. Push a button, something opens, something happens. So I am still in the newer stages of setting a lot of that stuff up with the goal of increased presence in my experience with the people that I'm supporting, coaching, facilitating.
I think we talked about eCam a little bit, right?
Yes.
Have you played with that already?
I have not stepped in yet. That is actually over the next 2 weeks. That is the tool that I want to focus on because I am launching a big program. So the choice mapping that I mentioned, which is a piece of my book, and if anybody wants the do-it-yourself version, the book teaches that. But within the next few weeks, I will be taking it kind of at a bigger level and leading a course and facilitating a course and all of those things. So I want to have my eCam set up to support the process that I want. So I'm in an interesting place at the moment of not only am I crafting the content, but I've got to figure out how to make the tech work as well. So thus waking up at crazy hours in the middle of the night, anxious, like, can I figure all this out?
Yeah, I have the base eCam Live plan at the moment, but I'm really, really tempted to go to the second level plan because it integrates Zoom. So it has Zoom integration,
Yes,
which means that it's possible to initiate a Zoom call from within eCam Live. So basically, eCam Live ships with Zoom embedded. So it's the entire Zoom app is inside eCam Live with the advantage of easily having guests and putting guests side by side with you, right? Or if you have if you do some knowledge sharing or something like that, or Q&A, you could have the person who asked the question to be actually full screen, and then switching back and forth between you and the person who asked the question, and entirely through the eCam application. And because it has super good support for the Stream Deck, it's really, once you have configured the buttons, right, to switch scene or to switch to another participant, I think it could make your life much easier as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I connect with a group of students within Exchange, this facilitation community, and a lot of us are all sort of figuring these components out, whether we're using eCam or OBS. I know a bit about both, but I think I'm going to end up going the eCam route. I think it supports the Mac. I know it's fee-based versus OBS is not fee-based, but what you're speaking about, and I'm glad that you've said it as a reminder, I had understood that there were the two levels of eCam, and I have heard just what you described, that investing in the Zoom integration is going to make the big difference. So I will likely assume I'm going to move in that direction.
Yeah, I've played a little bit with OBS. It felt a little bit more challenging to learn. It felt more powerful, right? OBS felt more powerful, or offering much more capabilities. But from a ease of use point of view, Ecamm Live is really very easy to use. It's delightful, actually. It's a very Mac-like application. And
And I think just even the way you've said that, I could feel my heartbeat. Like I could feel my nervous system calm down. Right now, I have so much on my plate. I don't know that I'm in the mood to figure OBS out, quite honestly. I'm looking for a tool that, as you say, simpler, easier, like let me have that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ecamm Live is very similar to the Stream Deck itself. All right. You can start simple, and I would encourage everyone to start simple, and then over time start to improve. So for Ecamm Live, it's a matter of defining scenes, right? So if you define the few key scenes that you want, you alone, or maybe sharing your screen and you as a round thumbnail in a corner, and maybe you and a Zoom participant, right? If you have 3 scenes like that, I think that's already a good starting point.
Yeah, that is my next project.
Very good. So let's switch to some productivity. I know you like being productive. What tip or trick can you share with the Macpreneur audience that would make their life easier on a Mac?
One of the things, and this is a new tool that I'm using. It's just with Chrome. I find I have many different projects, and so, for example, if I am in the mood or I'm working on writing a newsletter, for example, I have a handful of tabs that I need to open for that purpose. So I have saved those within Chrome as a saved group of tabs that I can then hide when I'm not using it. So I'm not taking up the bandwidth of having an enormous amount of browsers open at the same time or tabs open. And it also supports me in that entrepreneurial ADD way to say, okay, this is the project I'm focusing on now. Which tabs do I need open? And I've organized them in such a way so that I can bring up what I need at the moment, get rid of what I don't, and therefore not get as distracted. And then in conjunction, using my Stream Deck, I've created a profile that just has timers. So to not only time block in my Google Calendar, but then maybe to do a 25-minute time block, which I've already got pre-organized on my Stream Deck, push the button and go. So from the perspective of open up the files I need to use, open up a 25-minute timer, and just do that. Now, I say that as if I do that all the time. I certainly do not do that all the time. And what I do notice is when I do, my productivity soars. So as I'm admitting to you that I have this great thing that works, I know I need to do it more. It's a simple tool, but it's quite effective. So that is one thing. Additional productivity. I have back in the day, I used to be a project manager integrator for others. So I really was responsible for holding an enormous amount of information within project management tools, and I've probably used every one of them. But now I'm only focusing on my business. And so I don't have the traditional project management tools at the moment to keep me organized. I have OmniFocus, which is a place to put tasks. I use Trello, which is a place I use it more for organizing ideas. I may have, for example, a full board about offerings. And I've got ideas of free offerings and mid-price and high-price offerings, and it just becomes the way to catch everything in place. And another way that I'll sometimes additionally organize is if I've time blocked to say I am going to work on project X, for these few hours, I will link to my Trello board in my calendar so that when I'm ready to go, again, everything's just there for me accessibly. So I give a lot of thought to, the linking between Google Docs. And that just supports me quite well.
Yeah, something I've discovered. So with the Stream Deck, right? If we talk about the Stream Deck, there is a multi-action button, right? So you can configure a button so that it opens an app, or opens a file, or opens a folder, or opens a URL. I don't know for Chrome groups, group tabs. I don't know for that, but that would be interesting to discover if it's possible or not. But the idea of you would push a button on the Stream Deck, and then a bunch of things would happen, and would be maybe open the Trello board that you need for that kind of project, or you would have Project X button.
Yes.
And when you tap on that button, a bunch of things open at the same time.
I remember when you and I first had just our get to know you conversation, you brought up, I had heard about the multi-action button, but haven't delved into it. And since we spoke, I was like, oh, that sounds like a really amazing tool. And again, like any of these, it's almost like I need to time block, a few hours in my calendar to say, I am just focusing on eCam. I am just focusing on multi-action, and learn it, watch the YouTube videos, do what I need to do to learn it, get it set up, try it, know that I'm going to tweak it at a different point. But what I find works best is if I really give myself that chunk of uninterrupted time to learn the piece of technology so that I really get it well. And I would say I did that with my Stream Deck at the moment. I think I'm at a good level. I've taken it up a level. I certainly have additional levels to go, but to do that, I'm going to need to invest more learning time in there. And one of them will be the eCam, the multi-action, like all of these nice suggestions that you're giving me.
Very good. So what improvements or what do you wish you could be able to do on your Mac?
I think, if I had the biggest dream possible for my Mac, there's some, if I could speak to it to say, here is what I'm working on, get rid of everything else that I don't need at the moment, shut it down so it's not distracting, open up these things, almost like a spoken multi-action. That would be incredible. Because there's a presencing in that. There's my commitment of I am showing up at this moment to work on this project. I am going to sit here for a fixed period of time working on this thing. Mac, can you support me to close down anything distracting, open up anything that's helpful? And at times, I haven't used this tool in a while. I used to use the Freedom app, which was very interesting if you're familiar with that one, where it just it removes all your distractions. You can't pop onto Amazon. You can't pop onto social media when you're in work mode. That would be beneficial as well. Kind of like set the boundary for me technically so that I stay in my lane and do what I need to do.
So your wish, I have a feeling that it could become reality in a year or two maximum.
Really?
With Apple Intelligence, right? So the fact that Apple is bringing to macOS, to the Mac, but also to the iPhone and the iPad, an improved version of Siri, but that knows about your computer. They talked about, I don't remember exactly the name, but basically over time, Apple Intelligence learns about the way you use the device. And it's stored privately, but basically it's like creating its own mini database of information that you're interacting with. So your messages, your contacts, the applications, the websites you visit, basically. And because the latest Apple Silicon chips, they all have what is called a neural engine. It's a part of the chip that is dedicated to machine learning and to basically build their own model, neural network model. And with that, knowing that they know how the Mac works, I'm still crossing my fingers that what you described will be reality pretty soon. And at that time, you will want to upgrade your Mac
But
because
what's so interesting in your question, I have never verbalized what I just said to you. I don't even know that I have thought about it. You pulled that out of me. That is kind of one of those magical dreams you say, and you're like, oh, could that ever really happen? You imagine being in a brainstorming meeting with like a bunch of genius Apple people and, speaking these things that seem so crazy and far out. Next thing you know, they're reality. So
Mhm.
if this could be reality, which I appreciate that you're saying it could be, will be, it's kind of incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if you are a paid ChatGPT
I am.
subscriber.
Yeah.
You are. Have you already had this kind of magical experience of talking to your phone, talking to ChatGPT, having a 20-minute conversation back and forth, kind of brainstorming, and it's impressive, huh?
I'm going to ask you a question. I have the paid ChatGPT on my computer. I don't have it on my phone. I don't know if they're separate because what you're describing would be incredible for me. And maybe I have access to it on my phone, but what you've described with the brainstorming, I haven't really tapped into in that way. And I would love that.
Yeah, so it's called voice mode with ChatGPT. And for the Mac, I experienced it this weekend, but there are two conditions. So you need macOS Sonoma 14 and you need an Apple Silicon Mac, right? It doesn't work on an Intel Mac. And so now for us ChatGPT Plus subscribers, if we are on Sonoma and have an Apple Silicon Mac, we can download, and I have downloaded the official ChatGPT Mac app. And so sign in with your ChatGPT account, and there is this little button in the bottom right corner with the headphones. You click on it, it asks permission to use the microphone, and then you can start talking with ChatGPT on the Mac.
Interesting. That really sounds pretty incredible. Yeah, ChatGPT has become my favorite assistant. I come up with the ideas, I ask it an idea, it comes back to something, it becomes this really interesting and fun two-way dialogue. Again, as a solo entrepreneur, I have so many ideas, so it's nice to kind of have the dialogue. I've been doing it in written format, but it's interesting to move it to verbal.
And basically, Apple Intelligence takes that to the entire Mac, right? So at the moment, we can just speak with ChatGPT, and it is constrained, or it only happens in that window. But the promise of Apple Intelligence is that we would talk like we talk to ChatGPT, and stuff would happen on our Mac, right? Can you summarize the last 5 messages that I had? What do I have on my calendar tomorrow? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, again, fingers crossed, we will be able to interact with our Mac. So open that app, close that app, switch to that desktop and stuff like that.
It sounds like a fascinating future.
Yes.
Works.
So we are approaching the end of the episode. Where can people find you, Kim?
Certainly at my website at kimdeyoung.com. And then from there, you can link to various places. I'm most active on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can find me there. You can access a copy of my book. You can take a quiz that I've created, which is really an interesting quiz from the perspective of understanding what type of decision maker you are. So the website really has the best information.
Very good. So thank you very much for coming on the show. It was really a pleasure to have you and discover how you use your Mac. And so if, like Kim, you would like to share how you are using your Mac to run your solopreneur business. It's simple. Just visit macpreneur.com/apply. If you are already on Podmatch, click the button and you will land on the show profile. Otherwise, just fill the application form and I will get back to you within a few days. So once again, it is macpreneur.com/apply. In the comments below, please share your main takeaway from this episode. And if not done yet, please subscribe to the channel so that you'll automatically get more helpful tips on how to run your business on your Mac. And until next time, I'm Damien Schreurs, wishing you a great day.
Thank you for watching the Macpreneur podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and share it with a friend right now.